The following video is produced by University of Vermont Extension. For more information, visit uvm.edu/extension.
Vermont wheat is growing at a rapid rate. For many, bread made from Vermont-grown grain is considered the last piece of the pie when it comes to locally grown food.
If you were standing here 5 years ago and you asked me, do you think there's ever going to be a time when you could make 100% Vermont, I would have given you a whole list of reasons why that's next to impossible. So it's really remarkable that we're in this position.
The rise in organic wheat production is nothing short of an agricultural revolution. Consumer demand, coupled with the combined efforts of farmers, bakers, and researchers, have doubled the amount of organic wheat produced in Vermont in the last 5 years. The cradle of Vermont-grown organic wheat can be found in Bridport at Gleason Grains.
When I moved here, there was, as far as I know, there was no one else who was growing wheat and milling it into flour. I believe I was the first one in 1981. I think I was the only one that was really doing it on a commercial scale.
Gleason grows varieties of soft white wheat used in pastries and hard red winter wheat, which is used to make bread. As a pioneer in the field of locally grown wheat, Gleason has a unique perspective on where wheat production is headed in Vermont.
I mean, there's just so much interest in it. It's really changed a lot, and there are people that want to grow it in their backyards, and there are people that want to grow it and do what I'm doing, and there are people that want to really have big operations. So anyway, we'll see how we're going to see in the next 20 years what happens. And it's a pretty small crop of wheat, so
Gleason invited grain growers to his farm for a workshop to learn from his experience and to see what innovations he uses to grow his wheat. Co-hosting the event was University of Vermont Extension agronomist Heather Darby.
Especially the one that we've had in partnership with Ben and Savannah. For about 7 years, we've been working with grain growers on growing grain. And when I first started working with grain growers, it seemed like the most important thing to us was yield. You know, we thought about that a lot. That was something we always measured in our trials. And we never really measured any other quality parameters. And then there was this real local Vor food movement that started. And at that point, we started to hear from consumers and bakers and processors more about what they wanted to see in baking wheat. And that's when we really tuned in on parameters such as protein. And bread protein is one of the limitations of producing good quality wheat in the Northeast and in Vermont in general, meaning that we have too low of protein in our wheat in this area, especially in winter wheat.
The higher the protein levels in the wheat, the better the gluten strength, which means a better loaf of bread. Mills and bakeries prize wheat flour that has between 12 and 14% protein. Vermont-grown wheat has typically fallen slightly below this desired threshold.
I'm growing mostly winter wheats, and the winter wheats will be lower in protein, but the one that I'm growing right now, which is called Redeemer, is the highest protein of the winter wheats that we have tried, and the bakers really like the quality of it.
And so basically they're starting to choose what they really like from those.
One way to increase protein levels is to apply nitrogen as a fertilizer at different growth stages of the wheat's life cycle. A year ago, Darby and Gleason began working together, testing different types of organic fertilizers and experimenting with the timing of the application. The project is funded by a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture's Competitive Grants Program, SARE, the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program. Deb, how many SARE-funded projects are there in Vermont?
There are about 12 being conducted right now in the state of Vermont.
Deborah Haliba is the SARE coordinator in Vermont. SARE funds about $3 million in grant-funded projects throughout the Northeast each year.
Our grant programs range from our mini grants. Those are grants that fund projects up to $15,000, and there's typically just a year-long project, to our bigger grants, our research and education grants, and our professional development grants that could be six figures up to like $300,000 for multiple years of project work.
It's probably compaction, yeah.
The research taking place at Gleason Grains is funded by a SARE partnership grant, in which the farmer and the researcher work together to develop innovative strategies to solve on-farm issues.
It's a unique part of SARE is that all of the projects are coming from problems that farmers are actually having right now and trying to find solutions to those challenges.
Because what worked well there may not actually be the best variety for here at Ben's place. One of the most important reasons for conducting research at a land-grant university is to really answer the questions that are coming in from the community around you. And the reason we're doing this work in the first place is because of the farmers and the end users saying, look, we want to improve the quality of our agricultural product so that we can have better markets, we can become more viable, and the end users are happy as well. So who's going to figure that out? You know, is it the farmer's role to figure that out? Is it the university's role to figure that out? Is it the end user's role? And from my perspective, and also from SARE's perspective, it's all of our roles. And that's why they have these partnership grants, so that we can work in partnership with all the stakeholders, the farmers, the end users, and the researchers, to answer the pertinent questions that are coming out of our communities.
I took a big chance to grow almost only this Redeemer variety.
This research project is now in its second year, and so far, the results are encouraging.
We did find that there was an increase in protein and yield.
Erica Cummings works with Darby as a crop and soils technician. She applied 3 different types of organic fertilizer directly to the wheat using a practice called top dressing. Once the wheat was harvested, it was tested and analyzed at the Vermont Crop and Soils Lab at the University of Vermont.
We had 3 amendments that we used. We used Chilean nitrate, Pro Booster, and composted chicken manure. And we applied at 20 pounds of available nitrogen per acre to each of the plots. And we can tell you that the Pro Booster had the biggest increase in protein. But here again, it's 1 year worth of data. We want to get a second year's worth of research data in before we start recommending it to farmers, because it is, you know, an expense, especially for Chilean nitrate, and actually for any of the amendments. So we want to make sure, that's why we reapplied for the SARE grant, to do a second year's worth of trials, just so that we can be more confident in when we say this is what we found. I mean, and you know, the weather from year to year changes so much too, and so we just wanted to have another year's worth of data under our belt before we start doing any kind of recommendations.
The farmers attending this workshop are eager to learn how they can apply the research being done by Darby and her team on their own farms.
We have a tough place to grow small grains, but it is possible here. So we've got to find better varieties that will do better in our damp climate here. For example, rye does really well here. We should be encouraging people to eat more rye bread. I make a lot of rye bread because I like it. And but with wheat breads, it's challenging, and we just need more research now while we can get it done. And we are having some success already after only 4 years.
Coming up to learn as much as I can about grains. We're growing grains in Massachusetts, and we've only been doing it for 3 or 4 years, and there's a lot more experience here. I knew there'd be people here who know what they're talking about, and there's always different people here you can learn from. UVM started it, and nobody else is doing it right now. So if we want to see what's going on, we go through UVM.
Look at our variety trials if you're trying to find.
For Darby and Gleason, the keys to this project are education and cooperation.
Building a relationship with farmers that are willing to help answer these questions is really important, because there's no better place to conduct research than on an actual farm in the state that you're working in. It's in their conditions, on their soil types. It's difficult, it's time consuming, and it takes resources to do it. And so to be able to work with a farmer like Ben Gleason that's willing and interested in helping to answer those questions is just the kind of partnership that we look for at the university, because really we couldn't do it without them. So farmers like that are, you know, they don't come along too often because it is extra work and commitment, and so he's a very valuable partner to us.
The relationship has been wonderful, just working with Heather and UVM, because Heather is I mean, she's just so interested in what we're doing, and is taking ideas and just trying them out. And this is why the research is so important, is that we're going to get answers from it. So, and we all contribute as well, all of us farmers.
From humble beginnings, Gleason has grown his grain business over time. As for what comes next, Gleason is optimistic.
Yeah, I think we have come a long way. Up until this year, the most that I ever harvested that I ever sold was 35 tons. I've already sold 50 tons this year. So, so there's a lot more people out there who are interested, and I think that doing programs like this, people get interested, and they get to know their farmers, and they say, wow, you know, maybe I should try some of this. So there's a lot going on that wasn't going on when I was first here.
At Gleason Grains, it's the work of farmers and researchers that will determine the future of Vermont's grain industry. Put another way, it's the kind of collaboration that's bound to grant success. In Bridport, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.